The November rain hammered against the windows of the Hayes family home in Arlington, Virginia, creating rivulets that blurred the view of the perfectly manicured lawn. Sophia Hayes stood in the kitchen, her hands wrapped around a cup of coffee that had gone cold 20 minutes ago. At 32, she had the kind of face that people forgot immediately after meeting her, a skill that served her well in her line of work, though her family saw it as further evidence of her unremarkable life. "Sophie, honey, could you move your car?" Her mother, Patricia, bustled into the kitchen, already dressed for the evening's event. "Your father wants to park the truck closer to the house. You know how he is about his dress blues getting wet." Sophia nodded, setting down her cup. Through the archway, she could see her father, Colonel Robert Hayes, retired, adjusting his medals in the hallway mirror, each one perfectly aligned, each ribbon a testament to 30 years of distinguished service in the Marine Corps. "Where's Ethan?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. "Oh, he called earlier. Said he's running a bit late from the base, but he'll meet us at the venue." Patricia's face lit up at the mention of her son. "Can you believe it? The Distinguished Service Cross? Your brother. A real American hero." Sophia forced a smile. "Yeah, it's incredible." Robert's voice boomed from the hallway. "Patricia, tell Sophia to hurry up with that car, and remind her this is a formal military event. I hope she has something appropriate to wear. Not one of those bland office outfits she always has on." The words stung, but Sophia had long since learned to let them wash over her like the rain outside. To her family, she was a mid-level analyst at the State Department, pushing papers while her brother pushed boundaries in Afghanistan. They had no idea that her bland office outfits concealed a Glock 19, or that the unremarkable sedan they wanted her to move had reinforced panels and encrypted communication systems. "I'll be right back," she said, grabbing her keys. As she stepped into the rain, her secure phone vibrated. The message was brief. "Operation Sandstorm files declassified. Full disclosure authorized for tonight. Director's orders." Sophia stood in the driveway, rain soaking through her jacket, and allowed herself a small smile. After 7 years of silence, 7 years of being dismissed and overlooked, the truth would finally come out. But unlike her father's theatrical displays of military pride, her revelation would come with the quiet dignity she had learned in rooms where decisions affected millions, and where recognition came in the form of lives saved, not medals worn. She moved the car, then went inside to change. From her closet, she pulled out a navy blue dress, simple, elegant, and utterly forgettable, perfect for someone who had spent years being invisible. But tonight, she also retrieved a small black case from her safe. Inside lay the medals and ribbons she had never worn, achievements her family had never known about. "Sophia!" Her father's impatient voice echoed up the stairs. "We're leaving in 10 minutes. Don't make us late for your brother's moment." "I'll be right down, Dad," she called back, her voice steady. As she pinned the National Intelligence Distinguished Service Medal to her dress, hidden beneath her coat for now, Sophia thought about Operation Sandstorm, about the intelligence that had saved Ethan's unit from walking into an ambush, about the 3 days she had spent in a Tehran safe house, extracting information that would prevent a catastrophic attack, about the moment she had decoded the very intel that put her brother's name forward for his commendation. Patricia knocked on her door. "Sweetie, we really need to go." "Coming, Mom." Sophia took one last look in the mirror. Tomorrow she would no longer be the disappointing daughter with the boring office job. But tonight, for a few more hours, she would play the role they had assigned her, the invisible one, the shadow. The rain had intensified by the time they loaded into Robert's truck. Ethan would meet them at the Ritz-Carlton in Pentagon City, where the ceremony would take place. 200 of Washington's military elite would be there, along with senior intelligence officials who knew exactly who Sophia Hayes really was. "I hope you remembered to bring tissues," Patricia said, checking her purse. "I always cry at these things. Your brother just makes us so proud." Robert glanced at Sophia in the rearview mirror. "Maybe watching your brother receive this honor will inspire you to do something meaningful with your life." "Sophie, it's not too late. I know a few people who could get you into defense contracting. Real work that matters." Sophia met his eyes in the mirror. "Thanks, Dad, but I'm good where I am." He shook his head, muttering something about wasted potential as he navigated through the rain-slicked streets. If only he knew, Sophia thought, that the daughter he dismissed had a higher security clearance than anyone he'd ever served with, that while he was fighting yesterday's wars, she was preventing tomorrow's. The Ritz-Carlton loomed ahead, its lights cutting through the November gloom. Somewhere inside, Director Hamilton was waiting with a speech that would change everything. Ethan would still get his medal. He had earned it through extraordinary bravery. But tonight, another Hayes would be recognized, not for charging into danger with a rifle, but for walking into it with nothing but her wits and the kind of courage that never made headlines. "Remember," Robert said as he pulled into the valet lane, "this is Ethan's night. Try not to draw attention to yourself." Sophia almost laughed. After tonight, she would never be invisible again. Chapter 2. The Weight of Secrets. The Pentagon. City Ritz-Carlton's ballroom gleamed with the kind of understated elegance that spoke of power rather than wealth. Crystal chandeliers cast warm light over round tables draped in navy blue cloth, each centerpiece featuring miniature American flags flanked by white roses. The crowd was a sea of dress uniforms and formal gowns, punctuated by the occasional dark suit of a government official. Sophia followed her parents through the room, noting the exits, the security positions, and the handful of faces she recognized from Langley. Director Hamilton stood near the stage, his silver hair and commanding presence drawing a small crowd of admirers. He caught her eye and gave an almost imperceptible nod. "There's Ethan!" Patricia gripped Robert's arm, pointing toward the bar where their son stood surrounded by fellow Marines. Captain Ethan Hayes looked every inch the war hero, tall, broad-shouldered, with the kind of easy confidence that came from leading men through fire and bringing them home. His uniform was immaculate, the ribbons on his chest telling stories of 4 tours in Afghanistan and Iraq. "Mom! Dad!" Ethan's face broke into a genuine smile as he embraced his parents. Then he turned to Sophia, and his expression softened. Unlike their parents, Ethan had never dismissed his sister. He pulled her into a hug that smelled of cologne and starch. "Hey, Soph," he said quietly. "Thanks for coming." "Wouldn't miss it," she replied, meaning it more than he could know. "Ethan, introduce us to your commanding officer," Robert interrupted, already steering his son toward a group of senior Marines. "Sophia, why don't you find our table? Number 12, I believe." Dismissed again. Sophia watched them go, her mother hanging on Ethan's other arm, both parents basking in reflected glory. She made her way to table 12, exchanging polite nods with people who looked through her rather than at her. "Sophia Hayes?" She turned to find James Chen, the CIA's deputy director of operations, standing behind her with 2 glasses of champagne. To everyone else, he looked like another Pentagon bureaucrat. To her, he was the man who had recruited her out of MIT, who had seen potential where her father saw disappointment. "Deputy Director," she said, accepting the glass. "James, please, we're not at Langley." He studied her with knowing eyes. "How are you holding up?" "You mean knowing what's about to happen while watching my family treat me like furniture?" She took a sip of champagne. "Just another day at the office." James chuckled. "Your father's in for quite a shock. He'll probably think it's a joke at first." Sophia watched Robert across the room, holding court with a group of retired officers, no doubt retelling war stories they'd all heard before. He can't conceive of intelligence work as real service. To him, if you're not kicking down doors, you're not a real warrior. And yet your intelligence saved his son's life. The memory hit her like a physical blow. The intercept from Kandahar. The coded message indicating an IED ambush planned for Ethan's patrol route. The frantic hours spent verifying, analyzing, and getting actionable intelligence to the field in time. All while maintaining her cover, even as her brother's life hung in the balance. "He'll never understand that," she said softly. "He will after tonight." James glanced toward the stage where Director Hamilton was reviewing notes with the event coordinator. "Full disclosure, Sophia. Operation Sandstorm, the Tehran extraction, the cyber operation that prevented the embassy bombing, it's all being declassified to the extent necessary. The president himself signed off on it." Sophia felt her chest tighten. 7 years of secrets, about to spill into the light. "There's more," James continued. "Your commission is being announced tonight as well. Rear Admiral Hayes has a nice ring to it, don't you think?" The rank caught her off guard. In the CIA's paramilitary structure, she'd held equivalent authority for years, but the formal military commission was unexpected. "James, you've earned it 10 times over." The Joint Chiefs agreed unanimously. He paused, his expression growing serious. "I know this isn't how you wanted it to happen. You've never sought recognition, but sometimes the agency needs heroes the public can see, especially in times like these." The lights dimmed slightly, signaling the start of dinner service. Sophia made her way to table 12, where her family had gathered. Ethan pulled out her chair, the only one who noticed she'd been gone. "Where did you disappear to?" he asked. "Just saying hello to a colleague," she replied. Robert snorted. "State Department colleagues at a military function? What, did they need someone to file reports on the catering?" Patricia touched his arm. "Robert, please, not tonight. The familiar dynamic settled over the table like a worn blanket. Robert and Patricia focused their attention on Ethan, peppering him with questions about his unit, his upcoming promotion, his plans after the Marine Corps. Sophia pushed food around her plate, her appetite gone as the moment approached. "I'm thinking about transitioning to intelligence work," Ethan said, causing Sophia to look up sharply. "After this last tour, I realized that having better intel could have saved a lot of lives. We walked into too many situations blind. Intelligence?" Robert's fork clattered against his plate. "You want to give up a real military career to sit behind a desk?" "It's not all desk work, Dad," Ethan protested. "Some of those CIA operators are failed soldiers playing spy games," Robert interrupted. "Trust me, son. You're a warrior, not a paper pusher. Don't throw away your potential to become like—" He caught himself, but his glance toward Sophia completed the sentence. The microphone crackled to life, saving them from further discussion. General Morrison, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, took the stage. "Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. We're here tonight to honor extraordinary service, the kind that defines what it means to be American military and intelligence professionals." Sophia half listened to the opening remarks, her heart rate steadily climbing. Across the room, she caught sight of several colleagues from Langley, all positioned to observe what was about to unfold. This was as much an agency operation as any she'd run in the field. "Pleased to present the Distinguished Service Cross to Captain Ethan Hayes, United States Marine Corps, for extraordinary heroism in Afghanistan." The room erupted in applause as Ethan rose from his seat. Robert stood as well, chest puffed with pride, while Patricia dabbed at her eyes with a tissue. Sophia clapped, genuinely proud of her brother, knowing better than most what he'd survived over there. General Morrison read the citation, detailing Ethan's actions during a Taliban ambush, how he'd exposed himself to enemy fire to save wounded Marines, how his leadership had prevented a massacre. It was heroic, without question. But Sophia knew what the citation didn't say, that Ethan's unit had been rerouted at the last minute based on intelligence indicating the original patrol route was compromised. Her intelligence. Ethan received his medal with characteristic humility, shaking hands with the general, saluting crisply. The applause was thunderous. Robert looked ready to burst with pride. "Before Captain Hayes returns to his seat," General Morrison continued, causing a hush to fall over the room, "I've been asked to share something extraordinary with you all. The intelligence that saved Captain Hayes's unit and countless other American lives came from one of our own sitting in this very room." Sophia felt every muscle in her body tense. This was it. "Director Hamilton?" The general gestured to the CIA director, who approached the microphone. "Thank you, General Morrison. Ladies and gentlemen, the intelligence community operates in shadows by necessity. Our victories are classified, our heroes unknown. But tonight, with the authorization of the President, I have the privilege of lifting that veil, just a little." The room was dead silent now. Sophia could feel her father's attention fixed on the stage, probably wondering what this had to do with his son's moment. 3 years ago," Hamilton continued, "a CIA operative risked everything to infiltrate a terrorist cell in Tehran. The intelligence gathered during that operation saved hundreds of American lives, including the Marines of Captain Hayes's unit. That operative spent 72 hours in hostile territory, with no backup, no extraction plan if discovered, armed only with courage and brilliant tradecraft." Sophia saw James Chen moving toward their table, a small box in his hand. "That same operative," Hamilton went on, "has prevented 2 embassy bombings, disrupted a nuclear smuggling ring, and provided actionable intelligence that has kept our forces safe in 16 different operations, all while maintaining such deep cover that their own family believed them to be nothing more than a State Department analyst." The blood had drained from Robert's face. Patricia gripped his arm, confusion written across her features. Only Ethan had begun to understand, his eyes finding Sophia's across the table. "Rear Admiral Sophia Hayes," Director Hamilton announced. "Would you please join us on stage?" The words hung in the air like a thunderclap. Every head in the room turned toward table 12, where Sophia slowly rose from her chair. She removed her coat, revealing the medals already pinned to her dress, medals that told a story of service her father had never imagined possible. "Sophia?" Patricia's voice was barely a whisper, but Sophia was already walking toward the stage, her steps measured and confident, moving through the stunned silence with the same calm she'd shown walking into that Tehran safe house. Behind her, she heard a chair scrape back, Robert standing in shock, his world crumbling with each step his invisible daughter took toward recognition. The spotlight found her as she climbed the steps to the stage. No longer invisible, no longer dismissed. Rear Admiral Sophia Hayes had finally stepped out of the shadows. Chapter 3. Recognition and Revelation, mapped pivotal narrative moment with emotional character revelations. This is a crucial chapter where the truth is fully revealed. I need to show Sophia's composed dignity as she receives recognition, detail the family's shocked reactions. Especially Roberts include realistic dialogue that reflects the emotional weight of the moment, avoid melodrama while maintaining emotional authenticity. Show Ethan's supportive reaction, build to the father-daughter confrontation. The stage lights were warm against Sophia's face as she approached Director Hamilton, each step measured with the same precision she'd used in a dozen hostile territories. The ballroom had become a battlefield of its own, not of bullets and explosions, but of shattered assumptions and crumbling facades. Rear Admiral Hayes, Director Hamilton said, his voice carrying across the silent room. He handed her the microphone with a look that conveyed both pride and understanding. This was her moment, earned in blood and shadows. Sophia turned to face the audience, her gaze sweeping across 200 faces frozen in various states of shock. At table 12, her mother sat with her hand pressed to her mouth. Her father remained standing, rigid as a statue, his face cycling through disbelief, confusion, and something that might have been rage. Only Ethan seemed unsurprised, a small smile playing at his lips as he began to clap, alone at first, then joined gradually by others until the room filled with applause. "Thank you," Sophia said simply when the noise died down. Her voice was steady, carrying the quiet authority of someone who had negotiated with warlords and faced down death in Tehran alleyways. "I'm honored to finally stand before you not as the person you thought I was, but as who I've always been." She paused, letting the weight of the moment settle. "For 7 years, I've had the privilege of serving alongside the finest intelligence officers in the world. Every missed family dinner, every cover story about boring office work, every time I was dismissed as wasting my potential, it was all in service to something greater." From the corner of her eye, she saw Robert sink back into his chair, Patricia's hand reaching for his. "The citation Director Hamilton read is just one operation among many," Sophia continued, "but I want to speak about something more personal. 3 years ago, I sat in a cramped room in Tehran, decoding intercepted communications. One message made my blood run cold, an ambush planned for a Marine patrol in Helmand province. My brother's patrol." Gasps rippled through the room. Ethan's expression had grown serious, his earlier smile replaced by dawning understanding. "I had 6 hours to verify the intelligence, analyze the threat, and get word to the field, all while maintaining my cover in a hostile nation where discovery meant certain death. Those were the longest 6 hours of my life, not because I feared for myself, but because failure meant losing the brother who—" Her voice caught slightly, the first crack in her composure, "who was the only one in my family who ever truly saw me." She found Ethan's eyes across the room. Tears ran down his face, unchecked. "Captain Hayes earned his medal through extraordinary bravery," Sophia said, her voice stronger now. "He charged into enemy fire to save his Marines. What he didn't know until tonight was that he had the chance to be brave because his sister made sure he wasn't walking into a massacre." Director Hamilton stepped forward, opening the box James Chen had delivered. Inside lay the National Intelligence Star, the CIA's equivalent to the military's highest honors. "Rear Admiral Hayes," he said formally, "for extraordinary heroism in intelligence operations, for service above and beyond the call of duty, and for actions that directly saved American lives at great personal risk, I present you with the National Intelligence Star." As he pinned the medal to her dress, Sophia caught sight of her father's face, the man who had spent 30 years in uniform, who measured worth by visible service and battlefield glory, watched his dismissed daughter receive one of the nation's highest honors for a kind of courage he'd never understood. "There's one more thing," General Morrison announced, returning to the microphone. "Rear Admiral Hayes's commission comes with immediate assignment as Deputy Director of the Defense Intelligence Agency. She'll be the youngest person ever to hold that position." More applause, thunderous now. Sophia descended from the stage, moving through a gauntlet of handshakes and congratulations. Senior officers who had ignored her an hour ago now sought her attention. She accepted their words graciously, but kept moving toward table 12, where her family waited in a tableau of stunned silence. Ethan stood first, pulling her into a fierce embrace. "Soph," he whispered, his voice thick, "you saved my life. You saved us all. You saved yourself," she replied quietly. "I just made sure you had the chance." Patricia rose next, tears streaming. "Sophia, we didn't— how could we not know?" "Because I was good at my job, Mom." Sophia squeezed her mother's hands gently. The best cover identities are the ones people create for themselves. You saw what you expected to see. Finally, she turned to her father. Robert remained seated, his hands flat on the table, staring at them as if they belonged to someone else. The colonel who had commanded hundreds of Marines couldn't seem to find words for his own daughter. "Dad," Sophia said softly. He looked up then, and she saw something broken in his eyes. Not just surprise or shock, but the devastating weight of realization. Years of dismissal, of casual cruelty, of measuring his daughter against a standard she had exceeded long ago, just not in ways he could see. "I don't," he started, then stopped. "You were in Tehran? Alone? Among other places?" She kept her voice neutral, giving him no comfort but no condemnation either. "Beirut, Moscow, Karachi, wherever the work took me." "The times you missed Christmas," Patricia said suddenly. "The family reunions? Ethan's promotion ceremony." "I was serving my country," Sophia finished, "just not in the way you expected." Robert's jaw worked silently. Around them, the ceremony continued, other awards being presented, but their table existed in its own bubble of reckoning. "Why didn't you tell us?" he finally asked, and there was something almost plaintive in his voice. Sophia considered her words carefully. She could have been cruel, could have thrown his years of disappointment back in his face, but cruelty had never been her way. "Because operational security demanded it," she said, "and because—" She met his eyes directly. "Would you have believed me? The daughter who was wasting her life in a boring office job?" He flinched as if she'd struck him. Good, some part of her thought. Let him feel a fraction of what I felt all those years. "I need some air," Robert said abruptly, pushing back from the table. He moved toward the exit with the careful dignity of a man holding himself together by will alone. Patricia looked torn between following him and staying with Sophia. "Should I?" "Give him time," Sophia advised. His worldview just shifted. That's not easy for anyone, especially someone who's spent 30 years seeing things in black and white. Ethan signaled a waiter for champagne. "I think we need a toast," he said, his voice still rough with emotion. "To my sister, who turns out to be even more of a badass than her Marine brother." "Language, Ethan," Patricia scolded automatically, then laughed weakly. "Oh, what does it matter? My daughter is a spy, a decorated spy. I don't understand anything anymore." James Chen appeared at Sophia's elbow. "The director would like a word when you have a moment, and the SecDef wants to meet you. No pressure, but you're the intelligence community's new poster child for excellence." "In a minute," Sophia said. She sat back down, suddenly exhausted. The weight of 7 years of secrets had lifted, but in its place came the complexity of a new reality. "Was any of it real?" Patricia asked quietly. "The person we knew?" "All of it was real, Mom. I'm still your daughter. I still burn toast in Can't Parallel Park to save my life. I just also happen to speak 6 languages and can field strip a Makarov in the dark." "6 languages?" Patricia blinked. 7, actually," Ethan corrected with a grin. "Remember when she was taking Spanish classes at community college? I bet that was immersion training in Islamabad," Sophia confirmed. They sat in silence for a moment, recalibrating their understanding of the past. Through the ballroom windows, Sophia could see her father on the terrace, a solitary figure against the November night. Part of her wanted to go to him, to bridge the chasm that had opened between them. But a larger part, the part that had learned patience in deep cover, knew that some revelations needed time to settle. "Ma'am," a young Marine appeared at her shoulder. "The Secretary of Defense is ready for you now." Sophia stood, smoothing her dress. The medals on her chest caught the light. No longer hidden, no longer a secret. She was done being invisible. "I'll be back," she told her mother and brother. "We have a lot to talk about." As she walked away, she heard Ethan say, "You know what this means, Mom? Soph outranks Dad now. By a lot." Despite everything, Sophia smiled. Her brother always did know how to find humor in any situation. She'd saved his life with intelligence work, but he'd saved her sanity by simply believing she was worth something, even when he didn't know what that something was. The rest of the evening would be a blur of meetings, photographs, and strategic discussions about her new role. But first, she'd give her father time to process the truth. The invisible daughter had finally been seen, and Robert Hayes would have to reckon with what he'd missed all along. Chapter 4. Peace in Truth. The terrace of the Ritz-Carlton stretched out beneath the November sky, empty save for Robert Hayes. The rain had stopped, leaving the air sharp and clean. City lights twinkled beyond the railing, but the retired colonel saw none of it. He stood with his hands braced against the cold metal, his dress blues immaculate despite the turmoil within. Sophia found him there 20 minutes later, after the SecDef meeting, after the photos, after accepting congratulations from people who now saw her clearly for the first time. She approached quietly, not with the stealth of an operative, but with the caution of a daughter approaching a wounded father. The rain stopped, she observed, coming to stand beside him. Robert didn't turn. "Did you know," he said slowly, "that when you were born, I was in Somalia? I missed it. Your mother called the Red Cross to get word to me. A daughter," she said. "I remember thinking I'd teach you to be strong, to serve something greater than yourself." "You did," Sophia said simply. He laughed, but it was a broken sound. "No, I taught you that you weren't good enough, that your service didn't count because it didn't look like mine." He finally turned to face her, and she saw tears on his weathered face. "How many times did I tell you to do something meaningful with your life? Christ, Sophia! You were saving lives while I was telling you to be more like your brother." The apology implicit in his words hung between them. Sophia could have twisted the knife, could have listed every dismissal, every moment of being overlooked. But she'd learned in the field that sometimes the most powerful weapon was mercy. "You taught me to serve," she repeated. "Maybe not the way you intended, but the lesson stuck. Every time you talked about duty, about protecting America, about sacrifice, I was listening, Dad. I just applied it differently." "Tehran," he said, the word carrying weight. "They mentioned Tehran. Do you know what we used to call that place in my day? The graveyard of spies. And you went in alone?" "I went in prepared," she corrected. "With intelligence, with training, with purpose, just like you taught me." Robert's shoulders sagged. "I've been a fool." "You've been a father who could only see one path to honor," Sophia said. "I can't fault you for that. It's who you are. Your mother's inside, telling everyone who'll listen about her daughter the spy," he said with a weak smile. "Ethan's holding court at the bar, explaining to his Marine buddies that his sister is basically James Bond. And you're out here, trying to reconcile the daughter you thought you knew with the one who exists." "Yes," the admission came hard. "I don't know how do I make this right, Sophia? How do I take back years of—" "You don't," she interrupted gently. "We go forward. That's all we can do." They stood in silence for a moment, the city sounds drifting up from below. Finally, Robert straightened, squaring his shoulders in that military way she knew so well. "Rear Admiral Hayes," he said formally, then snapped to attention and rendered a perfect salute. Sophia's throat tightened. In 30 years of service, her father had saluted superior officers thousands of times. But this was different. This was recognition, acceptance, apology and pride wrapped in a gesture as old as the military itself. She returned the salute crisply, then stepped forward and hugged him. He stiffened at first, surprise evident in his rigid posture, then slowly relaxed, his arms coming up to embrace his daughter. "I'm proud of you," he whispered, the words rough with emotion. "I'm so damn proud of you, and I'm sorry it took this for me to see it. I know." "Dad!" They broke apart as footsteps approached. Patricia and Ethan emerged onto the terrace, followed by James Chen. "Sorry to interrupt," James said, "but the director is ready to leave, and he wanted to speak with you once more, Sophia." "Of course." She turned to her family. "I'll be right back."